God hath not promised skies always blue, flower-strewn pathways all our lives through. God hath not promised sun without rain, joy without sorrow, peace without pain. God hath not promised we shall not know toil and temptation, trouble and woe. He hath not told us we should not bear many a burden, many a care. God hath not promised smooth roads and wide, swift easy travel, needing no guide. Never a mountain rocky and steep, never a river turbid and deep.
Has God failed you? Profiting from the Word. Next on So What? Hi, I'm Chris Dorman.
And I'm Don Waite.
Welcome back to So What?
It's been a while.
It's been a while. So I have to tell you, beloved, I actually contracted COVID. And because I contracted COVID, Don and I stayed away from each other. And I'm thankful that Don and his family did not get COVID, while my family did. But I'm thankful as well that my case was not very serious. And those in my family who have suffered from it, it's not been very serious. So very grateful for that. But so anyway, so I was sick for a couple of weeks, and then last week we had some family stuff to take care of. So we're here, we're back, yay! Did you miss me? Did you? We've been looking at A.W. Pink's book, Profiting from the Word, and this week the chapter in the book that we're on is the Scriptures and the Promises. How can we profit from the Word of God when it comes to the promises of God? How do we know if we're profiting from the Word? Well, as we talked about that, as we thought about that, we thought, I wonder how many of us get in trouble more. We get in trouble more because of what God hasn't promised, and our response and how we deal with what God has not promised. What do I mean by that?
Well, we can talk about this in the theory, in the ethereal, Chris, and then we can maybe drill down into personal experience with it. But there's so much like anecdotally that I think we carry into our Christianity that it says, look, if I know the Lord, that my life is going to be okay, and that by and large things are going to kind of go my way, especially if I'm being faithful.
Right.
There's this thought that if I'm being faithful and I'm following hard after you, God, and I'm in the Bible and I'm on my knees praying and I'm trying to do the right things, whatever those are, that the response to that by God is, I'm going to make your life okay. Right?
A quid pro quo. So if I do the right things, God will bring good blessings to my life. Right?
Right. And it's such an X plus Y equals Z kind of mentality. But what happens, though, in life is if that doesn't happen, then we go into a tailspin because we believe that maybe God's not making good on what he promised me in my life.
God owes me.
Yeah.
And so we're not speaking in an ethereal way, in a theoretical way. We're talking from personal experience.
Right.
When I went through my most difficult time, I remember when my ex-wife left me and I stopped preaching and I just couldn't do it anymore. I remember at one point saying, God, I started this church. I've been praying. I've been in my Bible. I'm studying. I'm discipling people. I've moved from California. I've come all the way out here for you. I've done all this stuff for you. Why is this happening to me? What have I done wrong? So I started thinking, if I would have washed the dishes more, if I would have been kinder, if I would have remembered flowers, if I remembered special important anniversaries better, then maybe these terrible things wouldn't have happened. God, show me, please, what I did wrong, because I know I must have done something wrong for this stuff to happen to me. You ever ask yourself, do you think that way sometimes?
You're making me think of Jesus, right? Yeah. When the disciples are like, whose sin that this man is blind?
Yeah.
There has to be some sin, something that somebody did wrong, either his or his parents or somebody, that this bad thing happened.
Right.
Instead of bad things happening because we're in a broken world and God uses those things for a purpose.
Right.
Right?
Think of Job. Look, all of his friends are saying, Job, yeah, you're a nice guy. Yeah, you've done some great stuff, but oh my gosh, there is sin. You've got sin in you that obviously God knows what it is, because that's why you're going through all these terrible things. At the end of the day, Job, you're really a terrible, sinful person. You're a horribly wicked man. And God brought this upon you because of your sin. And Job is going, that's not me.
That's not me. That
That's
doesn't
not
equate.
me. And that's not what God said about Job either, right? God declared him a righteous man. But the human perspective is where there's smoke, there's fire. There's terrible things have happened. You must be doing something wrong.
And as far as the promise goes then, right, what those men were thinking is, my goodness, God should be giving you, that good family and the livestock and your livelihood and all that stuff. And he owes that to you because you are a godly man. And if he removes that, that means you've done something wrong.
That's right.
But God owes that to you. And so that's the question, does God owe me that?
Right.
Because he really doesn't. When I've had a bad church experience in my past, Chris, where I had people that I trusted that violated that trust, when people broke my confidence, when people did things that hurt. And I said, but God, you are a God of fidelity and you care more about your church. You need to fix this. And he didn't fix it. God didn't promise me that he was going to make that right. He didn't promise me that my friendships were going to be intact or that they wouldn't go awry, that people that I loved and that I thought loved me wouldn't hurt me. He didn't promise me that. And so what do you do with that when you feel like God's abandoning you?
How did you respond? How did you react to God?
Well, initially I became bitter. I became very bitter because, God, what are you doing? And I made it honestly about me and about how I was feeling.
But that's normal.
Right?
That's normal. That's exactly
normal.
what we do. So as I started contemplating, all the good things I had done and therefore God owed me, I wouldn't put it like that,
Right.
friends. And you may not be thinking that you think that way. But as I contemplated my life and I contemplated how I was living my life, I was really sincerely trying to live for the Lord and for all the right reasons. I really was. And I wasn't a perfect man. But had I done something to justify what had happened to me in a temporal sense? At some point I realized, you know what? No, I didn't. You know what, God? What happened to me was wrong. What happened to me was evil. And you know what, God? You shouldn't have done that because I deserved better. And then I went from being broken emotionally to being really mad.
Yeah.
To being really, really angry at God because he didn't keep a promise he never made.
And that's the key right there.
God
Right.
didn't promise me a marriage that would last forever. God didn't promise me children that would be healthy or that would outlive me. God didn't promise me a pleasant church experience. God didn't promise me a wife that really loved and cherished me, that who wouldn't leave me. God didn't promise me those things. He didn't. He didn't, but I felt he owed that to me. Do you see what I'm saying? Have you experienced this? How have you gone astray spiritually because you've blamed God for keeping promises he didn't make? Friends, I was off the rails for over a decade. Angry, embittered, sad, dead inside because I was blaming God for breaking a promise he never made.
And it's so hard, Chris, because there are certain things that in life that are so, and you made reference to this, that are so dear to us, like our family, like our spouses and our children and our parents, and we don't want to see suffering in their lives. And when we see that suffering, we want God to alleviate that, and we somehow convolute that into thinking that God has promised us that He's going to meet that need. And the reality is He never promised me that. What he did say very emphatically is, in this life there will be trouble, but trust in God, trust also in me. And so then the question arises is then, why is God not promising those things? And why is then God putting these hard things in my life or in your life and you're suffering so greatly? What is God's design in that? What is he even doing?
No doubt, before we started podcasting, you were sharing with me a Bible study that you conducted this week with a group of Awana kids. And you asked them a simple question, but a profound one, I think. What is in your life right now that you have to have for your life to be okay? What is in your life right now that if you lost it, life wouldn't be okay? And he wrote all those things down.
Yes, big laundry list of all those things.
And they were all second things, weren't they?
They were second things, but they were first in our hearts. And I say our because I put mine on the list too. Yeah. And we realize when those get removed that my life becomes a wreck. Well, why is that? Because I'm putting them first.
Idols. And so what do we mean by first and second things? The first and most important thing in our lives is our relationship with God. That's it. That's the most important thing. Everything else in your life, no matter who it is, no matter how cherished, no matter how important it is to you, is a second thing. Okay?
Yeah.
And if it's taken from you, your life shouldn't fall apart. Why? Because it's not the most important thing. Why? Because you see that what is God doing by taking those things from you? What is he doing? Is he punishing you? Is he being cruel to you? Is he being evil to you? Has he broken a promise to you? No, he is weaning you from the world and drawing you unto himself, which is the most important thing in the world.
Yeah. And so when the Lord takes those things and he shakes it up, whether he removes it or he compromises it in some way and it's not going the way you want, instead of it making me run away from him, which is my natural inclination,
Which is what I did.
It should draw my heart near him as I'm seeing that really those things aren't meeting my greatest thirst and my greatest need, Chris, which is God himself. Right. And what God in his grace is doing is saying, look, I'm going to remove this from you so that all you have is me. It reminds me again of that letter to the Corinthian church, 2 Corinthians, when he says, look, and God did this in the first chapter. God did this that we may not trust in ourselves, but in him who raises the dead. So Paul got to the point of death where he felt like it's over. My life is over. Why did he do this? So I'll trust him. So over and over again in my life, he's taking those second things, which keep creeping back in, by the way.
Second things are precious.
Yes.
Right?
Very good things.
Good things, precious things, vital things, loving things, wonderful things, God-honoring things. But second things nonetheless.
And he pulls it away so that my eyes can have a clearer vision of him and I push into him. Chris, that's a lesson, a life lesson that I think God is just continually in a process over and over again doing in our lives. In my life, in your life.
And Paul, we talk about Paul a lot because his life, again, from every temporal metric, every way you look at his life in a temporal way, apart from God, you look at Paul's life, you go, wow, this guy's a loser. This guy's life sucks. He
had such promise.
Yeah. Yeah, he used to be a religious leader and he had power and prestige and he was really honored in the community and people looked up to and respected him and he had a good job and a good name and now look at him. Oh my gosh, he's pathetic. Right. And he says, we don't lose heart in 2 Corinthians. Our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us a glory that far outweighs them all. Therefore we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. He's stripping us away from the world, drawing us nigh into himself. Why? Because he loves us, and he knows that we need him as our highest treasure. Yeah. That he must be our portion. For us to experience genuine joy, for us to really see second things for what they are. Blessings from God, but not idols. Not idols. Have you allowed second things to become first things? Mm-hmm. And have you become embittered and frustrated and angry with God when he has taken those things from you and in your mind broken promises that really at the end of the day he didn't make?
And have you thought that, oh gosh, well then, if ultimately he's doing that because I'm unfaithful, then all I've got to do is I've just got to be in the Word more.
That's right.
I've just got to pray harder.
Yes.
I've just got to draw near him more. I've just got to have harder worship. I just got to be in the church building more often and be with ministry and all that. And then somehow God's going to restore that. Don't go there. Don't go there, because that train wreck is continuing to happen when you do that. And the worst thing that could possibly happen is you do that and some things get corrected and then you have the misguided idea that the reason they're getting better, and that it worked, because it's just not true.
No.
At the end of the day, God has a grand design to draw me nearer to him and to conform me to the image of his son, Jesus. And so that's what he's doing in my life. No more and no less. And he's going to use any means possible, whether I've prayed for it or not, because his own name is at stake, to do that in my life, because he has his own glory at stake, and he who began the good work is going to finish it, Chris. And part of that is going to be a painful road he's going to take you through to get there.
And speaking of a painful road, that hymn that Don quoted from at the beginning, the author of that hymn had a very, very difficult life. And the Facebook post this week is going to be very simple. A quote from Ravi Zacharias talking about this hymn writer, and a short little blurb that Dawn found online about about her life. Okay, what was her name, Dawn?
Oh my goodness, her name was it Annie? I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna get it right now.
Yeah. But it's important.
Yeah,
I want you to
Annie
just
Johnson Flint.
take 5 minutes and look at the Facebook post. It's
Please
really,
do.
It's really, really short, but it's important that you see those words that Don read at the beginning. Say, look, God didn't promise you those things. He didn't promise you those things. But let's hear the end of the hymn and what God has promised, or the refrain from the hymn.
But God hath promised strength for the day, rest for the labor, light for the way, grace for the trials, help from above, unfailing sympathy, undying love.
Amen.
Isn't that great?
Amen and hallelujah. So friends,
So good.
So friends, I want you to take a serious look at your life, and if you're really wrestling in your faith, and if you're wrestling with that kind of bitterness and anger and disappointment, is it because you're upset that God didn't come through or he never promised to? Really? Are you looking at things really, really in the wrong light? Did you make second things first? And was God busy because he loves you, drawing you away from those things and closer to himself? It's not easy. It's painful. It's very hard.
Yeah.
It's the stuff we're made out of. It's hard. But love compels him to feed us with what we need the most. And that's what he does. He gives us what we need, not necessarily what we want. And he's promised to give us what we need.
And so, Lord, conform my heart to you in such a way that what I want is that,
Yes.
and not these other things.
Right.
That my desire for you indeed is greater than all those second things.
That's right.
So I can see them in the right perspective, and I can bring them to you like Abraham bringing Isaac to the altar, saying, Lord, if this is what you're asking, I'm going to give it because I'm going to trust you. Wow. That's a high calling, Chris.
Wow, that's a heavy podcast. Aren't you glad we're back?
Yeah, really.
Next week, we're going to talk about the promises and what the promises are that we should really, really seek out and pray over and hold dear. Until then, I hope you have a good week. And what do I usually say at the end of these things? I don't even remember. What do I say at the end of these things?
Until then.
I don't remember. I don't remember what I say.
These are outtakes.
I don't remember what I say.
I know what I say. I say, I'll see you soon. I'll see you soon.
Okay. See you guys.
Talk to you next week. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
I don't know.
I don't remember. Take 2. Thank you for tuning in, my friends. And I'll talk to you next week.
We'll see you soon.
That's what I say.